The great outdoors. There's nothing like getting outside and enjoying the fresh air. So today I'm stepping out of the house and bringing out my inner caveman by brewing a beer outdoors while camping. I'm talking no electricity, no propane tanks, and no special gear. Just a man, some fire, and the 4 basic beer ingredients. But this ain't a walk in the park. You've got to be prepared. So I'll share all the tips I discovered to help you succeed and brew your own beer in the wild. While the weather was a bit overcast this day, I couldn't complain because my campsite had amazing views. A sprinkle of rain won't stop me. Before anything, I needed fire. So luckily there was a break in the rain and I got a good fire going. While that heats up, let's talk about some tips for success while brewing outside. The number one tip that I can give is that prep is everything. You're in the wild, so there's no running out to a brew store for missing ingredients, and you don't want to lug a bunch of extra gear that you won't need. Pack light and prep all your ingredients ahead of time. I'm just brewing a small 1-gallon batch, so I packed everything I need into this 2-gallon pot. Inside I have the brewing salts, the hops, and the yeast, weighed out into individual containers. I also added a thermometer to help track mash temps, although I don't recommend this infrared one that takes the surface temperature by shooting at it like a gun. It's not as precise around fire. So a simple stick thermometer is better. And the last thing in the pot is a brew bag filled with pre-ground grains. I weighed and ground the grains last night, so I had less to worry about and bring today. But an even easier option would be to just bring malt extract. The last few things you'll need are water, which you'll likely be bringing some jugs anyways while camping, so just grab an extra big one, heat-proof gloves to handle the hot pot, and something to stir with. I just keep this short mash spoon with my other camping cooking tools. And then a fermenter of some kind. I'll talk a little bit more about this one from Kegland later. You'll notice that I didn't bring any hydrometer or pH meter to take proper measurements. And that's on purpose. I'm just trying to go dead simple and enjoy my time outside. I'll let the brew day go as it wants to go and hope the calculations made by the brewing software get me close to my goal beer. Oh, and speaking of beer, I didn't mention what kind of style I'm brewing, but I figured there's no better campfire beer than a RAUCHBIER. If you're not familiar with this style of beer, neither was I until recently. It's a smoked lager, and it can be hard to find a good example, but this one by Schlenkerla seems to be the gold standard. I always figured smoked beers would be nasty, like drinking a beer out of an ashtray. But after trying this one, I was shocked at how good it was. And the smoke flavor wasn't overkill. It adds a, for the lack of a better word, bacon-like taste and aroma to an otherwise crispy and refreshing malty lager. So I found this clone recipe online, and that's what I'm brewing here. It's basically 98% Beechwood smoked malt and 2% Carafa III for some added color. But a little Munich malt would go great in this. I'll leave all the recipe details in the description if you're curious to try it out. With the fire burning nice and strong, I added the water to the kettle and placed it over the fire. I highly recommend utilizing the fire to grill up some tasty food for later. You'll be hungry by the end of the brew day for sure. The goal is to get the water in the kettle up to around 150 degrees Fahrenheit or about 65 degrees C for the mash or the steeping of the grains. Since my thermometer isn't precise, I just use my best judgment. I added in the optional brewing salts, followed by the brew bag, using my spoon to make sure it was well mixed and saturated. It then became a game of moving the pot away and back onto the fire to keep the temp steady, which Lord knows I didn't do perfectly, but perfection is not the goal. Close enough is good enough for brewing outside. After 45 minutes of mashing, adding firewood as needed, I pulled the grain bag, squeezing it out as much as possible, and then placing back on the lid of the pot and putting it above direct fire. If you've ever complained about it taking a long time for something to come to a boil, try using fire as your heat source. This baby got to a roaring boil in no time. And I wasn't sure if it was the fire or the smoked malt, but this beer was smelling like heaven. Once at a boil, I added my only hop addition, 0.6 ounces of Hallertau Mittlefrueh. I let it boil for 30 minutes and then pulled the pot off the heat. By then, the sun was setting, so I enjoyed my dinner and let the pot chill out with the lid on overnight. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of ocean waves and soaring pelicans. And best of all, a cooled pot of wort. Now you can ferment this in whatever fermenter you got. Even something as simple as a Home Depot bucket can work. I've made several fermenters like this before. But I decided to ferment this beer in my newest piece of gear, this RAUCHBIER Mono by Kegland, who just so happens to be the sponsor of this video. And while I attempt to carefully transfer the wort from the pot into the keg, let me tell you a bit more about Kegland and some of the gear they sent me. Kegland is a homebrewing supply company out of Australia, and they make some of the coolest and best homebrewing gear out there. If you've watched this channel before, then you know I'm a huge fan of their duo type products and wrap pill hydrometers. This RAUCHBIER Mono is their new 1 gallon PET keg that is lightweight, reusable, and one of the most affordable options for at-home kegging. In addition to this keg, they also sent me their new portable NukaTap mini beer faucet for taking beer on the go, which I'll show you just how awesome it is in a minute. But I'm constantly blown away by the offerings and quality of products that Kegland's pushing out, and I'm super proud to have them as a sponsor. I'll leave links to the gear I'm using from Kegland, and if you're ever in need of some new brewing gear, be sure to check them out. Plus they have an awesome YouTube channel if you want to keep up to date on all their latest products. Thanks again to Kegland. With the beer safely in the keg, I topped up with some water to replace any extra wort that got boiled off. And then I added the yeast. I just ended up using Angel Yeast BF27, but something like a SAF Lager 3470 or any equivalent lager yeast would be perfect. And since this is my serving keg and my fermenter, you might get a bit of yeast sludge in the first pint or two, but eventually it should pour clear. Okay. Once I was back at home, I added on a spunning valve and set it to about 12 psi. Kegland sell one of these too, and I might need to pick one up. These just keep the pressure in check during fermentation to give you the cleanest final results. I then let it ferment for a little less than 2 weeks, at which point I chilled it down and let it lager until my next trip outdoors to try it out. Excuse me while I fill up from my chair keg. So today I'm not actually camping, but I'm at a cabin in Big Bear, so it's still giving me that woodsy outdoor feel. And I thought it was a perfect way to show you how this whole system works and how you can take beer on the go. This thing is actually awesome. This is the NukaTap Mini vertical clamp. It's great for clamping on things like chairs, or they also sell a horizontal one, which is good for like tabletops or picnic tables. And inside this keg, I have the RAUCHBIER Mono, which I filled up on camp day, and it's working out great. I got it with some ice going right into the NukaTap. And behind me, I got a CO2 tank, which just helped keeping the pressure on the keg so I can keep pouring all day long. But if you didn't want to bring a CO2 tank, you totally just use an empty 2-liter bottle and one of these carb caps, and then just fill it up with a bunch of CO2. And then just use that as your little portable CO2 tank. And as for the beer, it looks the part and it sure tastes the part. It turned out super smoky. I love the character that it brings to the beer. It's got notes of char and smoked richness, almost tasting like something fresh off the grill. To me, this is such a great summer beer because it reminds me of being around the campfire with your friends. And what I really love is that even though it's dark and smoky, it still has a very thin and crisp body, which makes it perfect. It's lager, it's smoky. There's something just awesome about it. But it's definitely heavy on the smoke. So if smoke isn't your thing, I would say you could always dial this back. I went full on for the smoke because I wanted that flavor. And to me, this is almost exactly what I was looking for. Pretty dang good for my first RAUCHBIER. So if you've never brewed a beer outside, I say go out and give it a try. It's a bit challenging, but it's also fun, and it gives you an excuse to get outside and enjoy the weather. And if you've never even tried a smoked beer, I say definitely go out and try it first. And if you like it, then maybe give this recipe a try, because I certainly know I was surprised at how good a RAUCHBIER can be. Gotta fill it from my cheg one more time. Cheers and happy brewing.